What's going on, everybody? We are at VIR today. Got the GT350 with me. I put myself back in DE3, which for me is a little bit almost strange because I've been racing with NASA since I got my license in 2010. So anyways, if you've been following me for a little bit, you know we've been doing a bunch of work to this thing. So you know that we did the hood louvers. They will be on all weekend, obviously. Our airbox lid cover project that we did. And the only other thing is I took out the washer fluid bottle. It was just pointless to have that in there. And then only other, and probably actually the biggest change, is I got some Pilot Sport Cup 2s. Now if you watch my old videos, I'll put a tag to the one up here. I had the Pilot Super Sports, which are a much harder tire. These ones with a 180 tread wear versus I think 300 on the Super Sports, obviously be a softer, grippier tire, so that'll probably be the biggest change how the car sits now. Now, what we are gonna do, again, if you've been watching me for a bit, you know we took this thing to the wind tunnel. You know that we developed wing kits for it, so that's our little Apex 8. The big 14, which I am gonna run, is up there. There's our splitter blade. So the plan is to do 2 sessions with the car as it is. You know, first one, just kind of knock off the rust. It's been like 10 months since I've been out in this thing. Session 2, kind of push a little more. Should be a little bit, you know, comfortable. Well, I'll call that a good baseline at that point. Lunchtime, we're gonna put the wing on, put the splitter on, and put the wing on, put the splitter on, oh, and canards. So then go from pretty much a no aero car to a car with a bunch of downforce, and kind of do some back-to-back testings. But I think that's about it for the intro to this one. First session's coming up in a little bit. We'll see how we do. Alright guys, first session out went pretty good. Car was still doing that misfire issue, so I'm going to tinker with that a little bit more today. I'm still leaning towards thinking that one of the pins inside the coil, or I'm sorry, the wire, is just losing a little bit of tension. So what I'm going to do is I have the laptop hooked up. I'm about to pull codes off of it, see which ones are misfiring again. So that was kind of the only real issue. Airbox lid worked great. Airbox lid, wasn't expecting any issues, even with the exhaust right down there. You know, everything's hanging in fine. Ended up doing, I did lap to lap, was like a 13, mid 13 or something. I did have a low 12, which would have been my best in this thing. Still nothing spectacular, but first time out in 10 months with, you know, just shaking the rust off, getting re-comfortable in this car. Can't complain. Being in a DE group, you know, you gotta remember the point buys and stuff. I think I mentioned earlier, I put myself in DE3. I didn't want to be in DE4 because I would have been one of like the, I don't know, middle speed cars or whatever. DE3 kind of allows me, I don't have to like watch my mirrors. I can kind of just pay attention to what I need to a little bit more. But yeah, everybody was great with giving point buys and everything. So I think that's my only notes on that. So let's see, let's run some codes. All right, so I pulled the codes. And this one, this P0020, camshaft position actuator A control circuit, open bank 2, I believe that's new. So that's a little bit worrisome. This 0300 ran a misfire. Cylinder 5 and 7 were the two issues last time. This mode 6 test I always like doing. Down at the bottom, hit play. I can keep an eye on this bank 2 because that's kind of what was moving, but it looks the same as bank 1. Okay, so there's that, and then our misfire data, 601 counts, and 1100 on cylinder 7. Rest of the cylinders are all pretty good. So yeah, knew the thing was misfiring. It felt like it was down a tiny bit on power. I don't know if it had to do with that camshaft thing, but the data from it looks like bank 1, so don't know what's going on there. So just gonna tinker around with the cylinder 5 and 7 plugs again, head back out for session 2, see what I can do, and then with that session I should get a lap that will be a good enough lap as a comparison lap for this afternoon when I put the wing and splitter and the rest of the Aero on. Alright, so here's some of my data real quick. The red line is my best run at the end of last season. Now keep in mind that was like at some point during the 4th session of the day when I was, you know, really getting comfy in the car, and that was this 13.2 right here. There's that 13.7 I mentioned, and then these 15s, the reason I kept them is because if you see the light green right here, I was actually up on my 13.7 by 1.1, where was I up the most at? So anyways, yeah, so you can tell right here, I was almost 1.2 seconds quicker at this point in the track. So that's the one where I was saying I did see like a mid 12 at one point. So obviously the car has it. I obviously just, I could go back and look at video if I wanted to, but I probably just, the braking zone here, don't know why I slowed up so much. Maybe just waiting for somebody, hit traffic, whatever. So taking all that into consideration, happy enough with how everything went. Alright guys, so session 2 did not go like I planned. As you can see, splitter fell off on me. So going down the straightaway, as soon as I got a little over 100, I would just hear like a little bit of like a flapping. Knew exactly what it was. Last thing I would want to do is like yank it completely off, because then my weekend's over. So I wasn't able to get a good lap. But for my data from session 1 and everything, I have a good idea of what this car maybe kind of could have did. So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to follow my original plan, which is install our, where are they? I have them. So I'm going to install our splitter blade and our wing kit. In my case, I'm just swapping a whole entire trunk. Our Apex 8 is getting taken off. This is left over from the wind tunnel testing. The Fulcrum 14 is up there. So rebolt the factory splitter on. It is the side that was damaged when I got the car, and some of the tabs were already missing, so, you know, kind of explains why it maybe fell off. But yeah, I'm gonna put all that stuff on, and what am I gonna do?
Kill it.
kill it. All right, and just like that, we have our splitter kit on. I wanted to do canards, but we're actually out in like 10 minutes. And our wing kit. This is our Fulcrum 14. We're at like 3 degrees right now, but it should be a good starting point. So let's see what we get. All right, guys, with the Aero on the car, finally starting to have some fun in this thing. Ended up going a mid-11, so obviously the best I've ever done in this thing. Still nothing spectacular, but the car just felt completely different. It got much less of that like kind of squishy feel. Bumper popped out. Much less of that just like squishy kind of floaty feel at speed, because even with the GT350R Aero, this thing hardly makes downforce. But with this setup, you know, we're at probably around 350 pounds at 100 miles an hour. Now, if you heard in the video, might be a little hard over the engine noise. Might be a little hard to hear over the sound of the car, but this thing is scraping like crazy. So obviously the springs are just way too soft. This car has the Ford Performance springs, whatever they have. I knew they were going to be kind of soft. I didn't think this soft. So already probably just jump right to like a coilover setup. And then I also want to get a race seat in this. The factory Recaros aren't bad, but just way too much moving, especially now that I can kind of get some grip in the car and really start pushing it. But the fact that I went a little bit quicker first time out with it scraping, I was kind of like being a little cautious where it was really scraping. Can't complain. The fact that this thing was kind of scraping on the ground, the splitter biscuit, you can see doing its job. But all things considered, you know, happy with how that whole session went. We got one more today, and yeah, can't complain too much. Oh, misfire was there pretty bad this session. I found out that going down to second through turn 4 and through Oak Tree, rather than kind of lugging it through third, if I go to second, it keeps the RPMs up, and that, I don't know, it seemed to help a little bit. Could just be in my mind. But yeah, still fighting that, which kind of stinks. I'll pull my data from that and put it against some morning laps and see where we're at. That session was actually a lot of fun. Finally getting a chance to push this thing. The splitter, what I did was I took a little bit of angle out of it. So I tightened up the rods a little bit to take a little angle out. And that also gave me a tiny bit more ground clearance. And then it still would scrape, but so I took a little bit of wing out of it because the car it was a little bit pushy, but I'd rather have a pushy car than a car with not enough wing and be really loose. Yeah, so like I was saying, I took a little angle out of the splitter as well, which seemed to help the rubbing some. And then I got down to a 208.3, which I'm pretty excited about that. There's definitely some more in the car, but that's, what did I do this morning, a 12? Mid 12 or something? With a couple more sessions in the car with no aero, I don't know, maybe could have did like a mid 11. I'll give myself a whole nother second from what I did. But to go all the way down to a low 8, you know, that's a huge gap. So yeah, Aero's definitely working. Tomorrow, what am I doing tomorrow? I'm having an issue with this side right here. And this is the side that got the crash damage. And the one bolt back here, the bumper is broken. So that's kind of why this one's, you know, pulling out on me a little bit. So I can feel it, you know, kind of flapping around a little bit. It's not the worst thing, but, you know, isn't the greatest either. So tomorrow, I'll try and tidy that up. And then if all goes well, I'll try and do that thing where I can log the ride height sensors. If I can't end up doing that, there is an airport across the street from my house. I could just go up and down that a couple of times. Yeah, so I think that's where we're ending Saturday. Ready to go eat? Yeah. Okay. So it's Sunday morning. And today might be a washout.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. I don't mind running in the rain, but since I kind of want to do testing, obviously, like, I won't really gain anything from it. We'll see if it slows down. You know, might just be fun running on a wet track for a little bit, but yeah, we'll see. All right, so we're sitting here. Oh, just heard some lightning, thunder. Got a nice little stream. So, I don't think we're doing anything today. What do you think?
Should have stayed home.
Yeah, Kelly could have slept in. Look, we got river rapids over our thing. Wow, got a nice wing puddle going on. Alright guys, so interesting session, obviously in the wet. Unfortunately, a guy in a GT350R, like a legit R, stuffed it into the tires and shoot, just before the bridge, I guess coming out of those few little kinks, just looped it off the driver's left. And that's kind of one of the, you know, how much you want to push in the rain and DE, but if you're doing it like, you know, you want to race or be competitive, it's something you kind of have to do. But yeah, just a shame anytime you see a car get wadded up. That's about it. Obviously no data or anything. It was just kind of, you know, I wanted to get this thing in the rain, do some rain driving with it. Alright guys, it's been a long, hot weekend. Kelly and I are both pooped. I'll show you where I'm at on this run. You can see, finally put canards on. We do not have the side plates, unfortunately. The splitter's been hanging in there. The splitter biscuits have definitely helped out. I did have to replace them. That's how much this thing is rubbing. Again, the stock spring, stock suspension, this much Aero, we don't recommend it. But if you had stiffer springs, a much more stable Aero platform, the splitter wouldn't scrape. If it wouldn't scrape, it just wouldn't really get beat up as much, obviously. But all things considered, the Solo didn't record lap times last session. I didn't really do anything because it was the first dry session today. We technically have 2 sessions left, but I'm kind of beat. So I think this is going to be my last run. Threw the canards on. Did not adjust the wing because according to our wind tunnel data, I was kind of a little bit rear biased, or at least I should be. So this should kind of shift it back towards the front, give me a little more total grip. So yeah, let's kind of see what we get this one. I think that's about it. right, guys, we're wrapping up the day here. It's been a long weekend, learned a ton. I'm finally really starting to like this car. The canards worked kind of as I expected. I was able to do an 8.4, which yesterday I did an 8.3. And then on the last lap, when they threw the checkers, I had a predictive of like an 8.1. So it'll be kind of cool to overlay data of the canard run versus no canard. Obviously lost a little bit on the straight, which means I had to make it up somewhere else. Which brings me to the data. Kelly's laughing at me. Are you tired?
I'm hungry. I want pizza.
Kelly wants pizza on the way home. Data. I will dive into it. I dove into it last night with the Aero runs and the non-Aero runs, and kind of as you would expect, I lost a few mile an hour at the end of the back straightaway and the front straightaway, but picked up a lot, you know, going up the S's and through some of the other parts of the track. I'll do a separate video on that because that'll kind of make this video long. I know a lot of people just like watching, you know, track day, easygoing videos. But all things considered, pretty good weekend. So I think that's about it. As always, guys, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.